The north is cold and full of whispers.
Robert looks down at the 4 mangled bodies laid in front of him, covered in scarlet Lannister cloaks. He had known that the Mad King had to die, but seeing the small bodies of the children and their mother disgusted him. The man who had done something like this, he might do the same again. This is barbarism, Lord Tywin. These were babes that your man butchered. I say we send them to the wall or have them face execution. Tywin Lannister's green eyes flash as he steps forward. Voice icy calm. Even if you could prove I had a hand in their deaths, this is war, Stark. I do not appreciate having a gift given in friendship thrown aside lightly. Perhaps you should depart the chamber to collect yourself, while I and our new king discuss matters, as you are clearly overwrought. Stop this squabbling, the pair of you, Robert Baratheon growls. Both men turn to look at Robert, both looking like they're about to draw swords, or at the very least have their men draw swords. Robert can see that neither will back down, and he doesn't have a way to placate both sides. Neither Tywin's ambition nor Ned's honor would be satisfied, and he cannot afford another war. For a moment he just glares at the 2 men. There's been enough fighting, Lord Tywin. I'm not going to have you executed for the crimes of your bannermen. Tywin opens his mouth to retort. Robert, I'm not finished. However, I am going to hold your bannermen responsible for their crimes. Your son needs to answer for something as well. He was here killing his king when a mother and child were butchered. Ned Stark, still flushed with anger, cuts in. Aerys deserved to die. I imagine Lord Tywin ordered his son to do the deed. While I was not fond of Aerys, I did not order his death by my son's hands. He took that initiative for himself, Tywin says coldly. Before Ned can reply, King Robert scratches his beard and interjects gruffly. All right, why? Jaime Lannister, Kingslayer, still armored and standing off to the side, answers at last, his voice sardonic. Because Aerys was going to burn the city with wildfire. Robert's face registers shock. Bloody hells. Well, Ned, I think that changes things. Sir Jaime, I have misjudged you. Ned looks between Robert and Tywin, brow furrowed. So, just the bannermen will face justice for this? Tywin inclines his head, thin lips curving in a slight, calculating smile. Very well. If you wish to send Sir Amory and Gregor to the wall, Your Grace, I will accept those terms. But I would ask that you release my son from the Kingsguard to act as my heir and arrange a marriage pact with my daughter. Ned's teeth grit. No. I want Lord Clegane's head sent to Dorne. Tywin and Ned both stare at Robert, the old lion in angry disbelief, the quiet wolf in shocked surprise. Robert glances between the mountain and the man who masterminded the slaughter of Rhaegar's children. Finally, the king gestures sharply. Seize them. It takes several men to tackle the mountain, less for Sir Amory. Tywin's jaw works, but he holds his tongue. For now, Jaime Lannister steps forward, golden hair stained with soot and blood from the battle. His green eyes meet Robert's. And what do you intend to give me in exchange for these concessions, Your Grace? Robert Baratheon exhales. Blunt as ever? Blunt as ever? Fine. I'll be blunt in return. How does being the first king of the Rock in 300 years sound, Lord Tywin? The great hall falls silent. Tywin's pale green eyes widen just a fraction. Ned Stark's frown deepens. Robert, hand on his warhammer, looks deadly serious. This scene is a glimpse at an alternate history event to set the stage in style. Now, on to the main scenario. Riverrun's Great Hall, late 299 AC. The mood is grim beneath the stone Tullyfish banners. Robb Stark, a youth scarcely a man grown, stands at the head of a gathering of Northern and Riverland's lords. His jaw is clenched with grief and simmering fury. Moments ago, a raven arrived bearing devastating news. Eddard Stark has been executed in King's Landing by King Joffrey Baratheon. The silence is heavy. Catelyn Stark presses a fist to her mouth, eyes red with tears. Yet around the hall, the outrage of warriors begins to boil. Great Jon Umber suddenly slams a meaty fist on the table, rattling cups and plates. This will not stand. Ned Stark was the finest man I ever knew, and that bastard boy king cut off his head. I'll not eat, I'll not sleep until the Lannisters pay for this. Murmurs of agreement answer him. Even the normally reserved Roose Bolton, lurking near a pillar with his pale eyes unblinking, gives a small nod. Catelyn lays a hand on Robb's shoulder. Her world is collapsing, her beloved Ned gone, her daughter's hostage. but she sees the Northern Lord's devotion and knows this moment could change everything. Rickard Karstark, gray and grizzled, steps forward, voice rough with grief and vengeance. The blood of Winterfell runs in our veins. We'll avenge Ned Stark. Every last Lannister will choke on this injustice. He lost 2 sons in the war already. Ned's death is the final straw. Robb lifts his head. He's only a boy of 16, but in his eyes now lives the flint of Ned's own. Beside him, his direwolf Grey Wind bares teeth in silent snarl, sensing his master's emotions. They have my sisters, Robb says, voice tight. Sansa is their hostage in King's Landing, Arya. Arya is missing. He can barely say it. Arya's whereabouts are unknown since Ned's execution. Catelyn's fingers tighten on Robb's shoulder in comfort. Greatjon Umber unsheathes his sword with a raspy scrape of steel. With a mighty thud, he kneels, placing the sword's point on the stone floor before him. The king in the north, he booms, eyes fierce. Why should we bow to some cocky boy in King's Landing? Ned Stark's blood runs in this boy's veins. King of the North, King Robb. For a heartbeat, they're stunned quiet. Then Mage Mormont, Lady of Bear Island, shouts, "The king in the north!" One by one, every northern lord present drops to a knee, swords drawn in salute. Even the river lords in attendance, those loyal to Catelyn's father Hoster Tully, watch in respect at the northern fervor. Catelyn's breath catches. Only yesterday she was the wife of a lord. Now her son is being raised to a king by his own men's acclamation. She exchanges a quick look with her uncle, Sir Brynden Blackfish Tully, who stands nearby with a proud glint in his eye. Even dour Roose Bolton inclines his head as he lowers himself to one knee. Off to the side, portly Wendell Manderly of White Harbor struggles to kneel but bellows, "King in the North!" Robb Stark, the only one still standing, flushes with astonishment. He looks to his mother as if seeking guidance. Catelyn gives him the smallest nod, tears in her eyes but chin raised with pride. She drops to her knees with the rest, bowing her head to her eldest son. Robb swallows, then draws his longsword, the Valyrian steel blade ice, reclaimed from King's Landing after Ned's death. Lifting it high, Robb finds his voice. "If you would have me as your king, then rise. Rise as northerners, as free men of the north, never again to bow to the Iron Throne." A thunder of voices answers, swords pounding on shields and tabletops. "The king in the north, King Robb Stark." Grey Wind throws back his head and howls, a long, mournful sound that echoes through the hall. Outside, other northern men in the yard take up the cry as word spreads. The north has a king again. Catelyn rises, heart swelling with conflicted emotion. Pride in Robb, Ned's son, now a king as well as her own sweet boy, but also dread. War has already cost her dearly, and now it will only escalate. She knows the blood price of kingship, but she straightens her shoulders. If Robb is to be king, he will need her counsel more than ever. The hall begins to clear as lords hurry to prepare for war, for that is what they've declared: open rebellion and northern independence. Catelyn pulls Robb aside beneath a stone arch. In the flickering torchlight, she can see the uncertainty beneath his resolve. He's so young, yet he carries a crown's weight now. Before she can speak, Greatjon strides over, flushed with excitement. "Your Grace, will want ravens sent to Bear Island. To White Harbor, every holdfast in the north will rally to your banner, or answer to my fist." Robb manages a faint smile at the Umber's enthusiasm. "See to it, Lord Umber. And thank you," he says. As Greatjon lumbers off, Catelyn draws Robb into the alcove shadow, Brynden and a few others giving them privacy. She takes both his hands in hers, a mother with her boy, king or not. "Robb, there is a matter we must discuss," she begins softly, eyes flickering. "Another of Ned's blood, whom we've left out." Robb blinks, following her meaning at once. "Jon," he whispers the name. Brynden Blackfish arches a brow, staying silent but listening. Rickard Karstark nearby overhears and scowls. "The bastard? What of him?" Catelyn lifts her chin. Her voice is calm but firm. "Jon may be baseborn, but he is Ned Stark's son by blood. My son's half-brother, my children's brother." The unfamiliar words taste strange in her mouth, yet she presses on. "He's now sworn to the Night's Watch, but these are desperate times. Family must come first. Ned would not want us to forget Jon now." Greatjon scratches his beard. "The boy swore an oath, milady. The Black brothers don't leave their posts. Desertion's a hanging offense, even for Stark blood." Roose Bolton's quiet voice slides into the conversation like a blade. Indeed, the Starks have always honored their pledges to the Watch. To call one of their sworn brothers away, unprecedented. He smiles a thin, close-lipped smile. Though, as you say, these are desperate times. Robb's eyes dart between the lords, troubled but thoughtful. Jon is my brother. Oath or no oath, he declares, a spark of determination kindling. The Watch may name it desertion, but I'm king in the north now. I'll pardon him. I can release him from his vows if I choose. A bold statement. Some lords murmur uncertainty. Catelyn squeezes Robb's hands. We have lost so much of Ned's blood already. We need every Stark. And Jon, he deserves a chance to fight for his family, as a true Stark. Her voice trembles with conviction. The memory of how she treated Jon at Winterfell, cold stares, sharp words, pricks her conscience. Ned's death has changed her. Old grudges seem pointless now. Karstark grinds his teeth. You risk offending the gods, my lady, but he gives Robb a curt nod. If the boy has Ned's blood and your grace's favor, I'll not gainsay it. Let him prove himself in battle for his kin. Great Jon guffaws, clapping Robb on the back. Ha! The more Starks the merrier. Ned's blood is Ned's blood, black cloak or no. I'll ride with Jon Snow at my side any day. Lady Mage Mormont inclines her head. So long as he fights for the north, I'll accept him. Bear Island knows no king but the king in the north. And his brothers. Roose Bolton steeples his fingers, eyes unreadable. Legitimizing a bastard, well, only a king can do that, and it appears we have. One, he says smoothly. Many Southron lords won't like it, but their opinions ceased to matter when we raised you, your grace. He gives a thin nod. I see practical advantages. Jon Snow is said to be a capable swordsman, and Stark features might sway some small folk who loved Ned. Robb stands a little taller, emboldened by the support, even Bolton's half-hearted endorsement. It will be done. I'll send word to Castle Black immediately. Jon will be offered a full pardon and a place at my side. I'll declare him a true Stark, with all the rights of House Stark, and I will need every Stark by my side for what's to come. His voice firms up as he speaks. Concluding with a king's authority, Catelyn releases a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She silently thanks the gods. Ned, I will keep your boy safe, she vows inwardly. Whatever grudges she once bore Jon Snow, she lets them go like leaves into the wind. They quickly decide secrecy is best. A raven could be intercepted. Instead, Great Jon volunteers his fastest riders. My son Small Jon will take a party to the wall, quietly. They'll have Ned's lad back to us before the crows even miss him. Robb clasps Umber's forearm in gratitude. Thank you, my lord. And no ravens to Jorah Mormont. We'll give Jon the choice first, and the Watch can be informed later. Within the hour, under cover of darkness, the Small Jon and a band of trusted riders slip out of Riverrun's gates and thunder north. Their mission: bring Jon Snow home. Castle Black, the wall, midnight. Snow swirls thick in the black sky. The Night's Watch's courtyard lies quiet but for the gusts of icy wind. In the dim light spilling from the common hall, a lone figure trudges toward the stables. Jon Snow, cloak drawn tight. White snowflakes speckle his black garb. His direwolf ghost pads silently at his side, red eyes bright in the gloom. Jon's face is taut with anguish and resolve. Hours ago, a raven from King's Landing brought the news of Eddard Stark's execution. Jon's world shattered in that moment. He tried to flee, to break his new Night's Watch vows and ride south to Robb's army. But his black brothers brought him back before he could get far. Only the Lord Commander's mercy kept him from being branded a deserter on the spot. Now Jon has made a fateful decision. He gently strokes Ghost's pale fur as he readies a horse. I'm sorry, he whispers to the wolf and to the wind, but I have to go. My family needs me. Ghost tilts his head, sensing his master's turmoil. The stable door creaks open behind Jon. Samwell Tarly, round-faced and trembling slightly from the cold, steps in. Jon, what are you doing? He asks, though he sees plainly. Jon is saddling a horse, packs and all. Jon's dark eyes glisten. Sam, I have to do this. They murdered my father. Robb is fighting. I'm his brother. My place is with him, oath or no. His voice breaks on father. Sam's face falls in dismay. But your vows, the Night's Watch, to hell with my vows. Jon snaps, immediately regretful at his tone. Ghost huffs, sensing his anger. Jon softens his voice. I'm sorry, but you understand, don't you? If it were your father, your sisters. Sam nods, tears in his eyes. He does understand. I do. But if you leave, you'll be a deserter. They execute deserters, Jon. Robb will protect me, Jon says, trying to convince himself as much as Sam. He's king in the north now. He'll forgive my desertion. He has to. At the word king, Sam's eyes widen further. The news of Robb's coronation hasn't reached Castle Black yet. Before Sam can question, the courtyard gate swings open with a heavy groan. 6 riders, cloaked in furs and stained with road snow, walk their weary horses into the yard. They bear no banners. But the leader, a huge young man, calls out, "We come from Riverrun with urgent word for Jon Snow." The gold and gray of House Umber on his surcoat glints in the torchlight. Sam and Jon exchange a stunned glance. Jon steps forward, Ghost at his heel, hand resting on Longclaw's pommel. I'm Jon Snow. What's happened? How is my brother? His heart leaps into his throat, fearing new sorrows. The lead rider swings off his horse. Small Jon Umber, Great Jon's son, towers even over Jon. He reaches into his cloak and produces a tightly sealed scroll. From King Robb and Lady Catelyn, Small Jon announces, loud enough for nearby black brothers to hear. The words King Robb set murmurs rustling among them. Jon's hands shake as he breaks the Stark direwolf seal. Ghost presses close, as if reading over Jon's shoulder. The letter's contents make Jon's head spin. Robb has been crowned king in the north. He calls Jon to come to him at once. More, he promises to legitimize Jon as a true Stark with Winterfell's name and honor. Robb wants him as heir if anything befalls him. Jon Stark. The name blurs before Jon's eyes. In the flickering light, Lord Commander Jeor Mormont emerges from the shadows in his thick bearskin cloak. His face is stony. What goes on here? He barks. One of the Umber riders stands his ground. King Robb has summoned his brother Jon Snow from the wall. We're come to bring him to Riverrun. Behind Mormont, black brothers exchange uneasy looks. Mormont's breath smokes in the cold. He fixes Jon with a hard, mournful stare. Is that what you want, boy? To forsake your vows, your brothers, for one last taste of blood vengeance? His gravelly voice carries quiet disappointment. Jon's eyes sting with tears he refuses to shed. He stands straight, clutching the letter. My father was killed. My little brothers are alone at Winterfell. My sisters are captives. How can I stay here knowing I might help them? He says hoarsely. I never wanted to be a man of the Night's Watch forever. I wanted to fight for my family. He steps closer to Mormont, beseeching. You know what is coming, my lord. The real war. Let me go. Robb will pardon my vows, and when the time comes, I'll make sure the North remembers the Night's Watch. We will not forget you when winter comes. Mormont scowls, but something in his eyes softens. The Wall always remembers who its friends are, he says gruffly. If you mean to do this, be quick about it then. I won't stop you. But know that if you leave us now, you leave as Jon Stark, not Jon Snow. His tone almost makes it a command. The old bear is giving Jon his blessing, in his own way. Jon bows deeply. Thank you, Lord Commander, he says, voice thick. He turns to Sam, Pip, and Gren, his dearest friends gathered in a worried cluster. I'll come back someday. I swear it. When it matters most, I'll be here. Sam cries openly, pulling Jon into a hug. Pipe pumps Jon's hand, trying to hide tears with a joke. Go on, be a hero, you bastard. Gren claps Jon on the back and sniffles that he'll name his firstborn Jon. Jon smiles, heart aching with love for these friends. Within the hour, Jon Stark rides out of Castle Black's gate, under the bitter black sky, flanked by the Umber riders. Ghost lopes silently at his side. Jon does not look back at the wall of ice looming behind him, afraid his resolve might break if he does. His path lies south now, toward home and war. Winterfell's courtyard shortly after. Dawn's weak light peeks over the frosted walls of the castle Jon once called home. The great weirwood in the Godswood stands red and white against the snow, as if watching. The castle is quiet. Winterfell's fighting men rode south with Robb months ago, leaving only a small garrison. The gates swing open to admit Jon Stark and his escorts. Jon pulls up his hood as he passes beneath the arch, heart pounding. The last time he left Winterfell, He was Snow, a nameless bastard heading to a life of duty. Now he returns a Stark and heir to the king in the north. A shrill cry breaks the morning hush. Rickon Stark, only 3 years old, bounds across the yard, shaggy direwolf pup Shaggy Dog at his heels. Jon, Jon, Rickon squeals. He barrels into Jon's legs before the horse even stops. Jon laughs, dismounting swiftly to sweep Rickon into a hug. The toddler wriggles happily. Behind Rickon comes Bran Stark, carried on the back of gentle Hodor. Bran's face lights with joy to see Jon. Maester Luwin scurries out after them, astonished at Jon's sudden arrival, but pleased. The gray-haired Maester ushers the arriving riders toward the hall for warmth. Jon embraces Bran carefully. The boy's legs dangle limp in the basket Hodor carries. "I missed you, little brother," Jon murmurs, voice thick. Bran clings to him fiercely. "We thought you'd gone forever." Ser Rodrik Cassel, Winterfell's master-at-arms, steps forward next, bowing respectfully. His usually stern face cracks in a warm smile at Ned Stark's bastard-now son returned home. "Welcome home, my lord," Rodrik says. The honorific my lord for Jon sends a strange jolt through them both. Maester Luwin can't contain a hopeful smile. "We heard rumors of King Robb's victories. And now you, Jon, or rather, Lord Jon? I suppose we should call you that now, Jon flushes, shaking his head. "Just Jon, Maester," he says. "We'll sort out titles later. I'm here for only a short time. I have to ride south soon to join Robb." The castle's staff swiftly swings into action. In the great hall, servants bustle to outfit Jon with food and fresh furs for the journey. Rickon trails right behind Ghost, tiny hand holding the tip of the direwolf's fluffy tail, giggling. By midday, Jon has bathed, changed into new woolens of stark gray, and broken his fast with Bran and Rickon peppering him with eager chatter. Jon savors the time with them, Bran telling him of dreams of wolves and strange three-eyed crows, Rickon mostly smearing porridge on Ghost's ears. Jon laughs more than he has in weeks. For a moment he feels like an older brother again, instead of a would-be knight, or a deserter, or a king's heir. Early afternoon, Jon stands once more in Winterfell's crypts. Torchlight flickers over the solemn stone faces of long-dead Stark kings. At the end of the row, in front of his father's vacant tomb, Ned's bones haven't yet returned from the south. Jon and his 2 youngest brothers pay their respects. Bran had insisted on coming despite the chill. Rickon toddles forward and places a carved wooden toy soldier on the tomb. "To guard you in the dark," Father Rickon lisps solemnly. Jon blinks back tears. He kneels, one arm around Bran, who's seated on the stone floor. The cold air smells of earth and sorrow. Jon bows his head. "I promise, Father, I'll protect them. Robb, Bran, Rickon, Sansa, Arya. I'll protect our family," he whispers, voice reverberating against the crypt walls. "As a Stark. As your son." Bran leans his head against Jon's shoulder. "We'll be all right here, Jon," he says bravely. "Hodor and Osha and Maester Luwin will help me and Rickon until you and Robb come home. Jon must leave quickly. Robb needs him." In the snowy courtyard once more, he hugs Bran and Rickon tight. Rickon clings, begging Jon not to go again. Jon's voice catches he'll be back as soon as he can, when the war is won. Ser Rodrik clasps Jon's forearm in farewell. Maester Luwin tucks a parcel of raven letters into Jon's saddlebag, updates for Robb and Lady Catelyn. Finally, Jon swings into his saddle. Ghost leaps up beside him, refusing to be parted. Bran and Rickon stand together, small figures in the swirl of new-fallen snow as Jon Stark rides out of Winterfell with his guard. Shaggy Dog and Summer, Bran's direwolf, begin to howl mournfully, sensing the goodbye. Jon raises a hand in goodbye. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. He calls, quoting Ned's words. Bran straightens proudly, yelling back, "The pack survives." Jon turns away before the sight of his little brothers tugs him off his horse. With a determined kick, he urges his mount on. The heavy gates swing shut behind him. Jon Stark rides south once more, this time not as a nameless black brother, but as a Stark of Winterfell answering his king's call. Riverrun, late 299 AC, golden afternoon light filters through the high windows of the audience chamber. King Robb holds court with his advisors around the large oak table. War maps and raven scrolls clutter the surface. Robb's youth is stark, no pun intended, beside the lined faces of the older lords. but he comports himself with Ned's quiet authority when he can. Catelyn sits to Robb's right, Brynden Blackfish to Robb's left. They are discussing strategy for the continuing War of the Five Kings. Tywin Lannister's host remains undefeated to the south. Stannis Baratheon has just been defeated at King's Landing. News of the fiery Battle of Blackwater came via Raven a fortnight past, and Balon Greyjoy has launched a surprise invasion of the North's coastline while Robb's forces are away. Robb traces a line on the map from the Trident North toward Moat Cailin, the strategic chokehold of the neck. We need to take back Moat Cailin from the Ironborn if we're to return north, he says. Bolton's forces are nearest. At mention of Bolton, Lady Catelyn's mouth tightens slightly. Roose Bolton holds Harrenhal currently, after Tywin abandoned it to relieve King's Landing. His letters pledge loyalty, but something about Roose's stiff, polite phrasing leaves her uneasy. Before they finalize plans, a sentry opens the door and announces, "Your Grace, your brother has arrived." Every head turns as Jon Stark strides into the chamber. He is travel-worn, clad in plain leathers and gray wool, but his stark gray eyes and solemn expression give the Lord's pause. Ghost trots at his side, a ghostly white direwolf with blood-red eyes, eliciting gasps from some Riverland knights who have never seen one of the fabled beasts. Robb's face splits in a broad grin. "Jon," he crosses the room in 3 swift steps. The Stark brothers embrace tightly, Ghost circling them with a wag of his tail. "You came. You truly came," Robb murmurs, thumping Jon's back. "I would have torn the wall down to come, Your Grace," Jon says, half-jokingly grinning. He glances around at the onlookers, suddenly self-conscious. He drops to one knee. "My king, I am yours to command." Robb laughs and pulls Jon to his feet. "None of that," he insists. "Rise as my brother." Catelyn watches the reunion with tears threatening. The last time Jon and Robb were together was at Winterfell's parting feast, when Catelyn could hardly bring herself to say farewell to Jon. Now she crosses the floor. The lords tactfully step back as Catelyn Stark approaches her husband's son. Jon stands uncertainly as Lady Catelyn comes to face him. Ghost sits by Jon's heel, looking up with bright eyes. Catelyn steels herself. Then slowly she extends her hands to Jon, taking his own in a gentle hold. "You have our thanks, Jon Stark," she says quietly, earnest. "You do not know how it gladdens us to have you here. To have you as a Stark." Her voice wavers on Stark. Jon flushes slightly, throat tight. "Thank you, Lady Mother," he replies softly, correcting himself. The word mother takes Catelyn aback for an instant. He has never called her that. She gives his hands a squeeze and nods, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The northern lords in attendance, Mage Mormont, Rickard Karstark, the Great Jon, Galbart Glover, and others, size Jon up with frank stares. The boy they knew as Ned's quiet bastard has grown lean, strong, and has a lord's presence now. And the dire wolf at his side is no small sight. Robb clears his throat, turning to the assembly. "Lords, as you know, I have legitimized my brother. From this day he is Jon Stark, true-born son of Eddard Stark. I've named him my heir until such time as I have sons of my own." Some of the gathered lords murmur assents or pound the table in approval. Karstark's face is unreadable, but he does not object aloud. Jon meets each of their gazes steadily. He may feel out of place among these seasoned warriors and high-born men, but he refuses to show it. In his Black Knight's watch garb, he has yet to don Stark colors. With Longclaw at his hip, he cuts a figure much like young Ned must have during Robert's rebellion. That night, camped on the green outside Riverrun's walls, Robb's host makes ready to march. They await an answer as the army makes camp at the Twins. That night, camped on the green outside the Twins, Jon finds Robb brooding in his tent. Robb turns a polished deer-bone charm in his fingers, a token Lady Jane Westerling gave him when he left her at the crag. Jon slips inside quietly, Ghost at his heels. "I keep thinking of her," Jon Robb admits in a low voice, not needing to name Jane. "What might have been, in another life, but I have a duty." His eyes glisten in the lamplight. Jon knows his brother's heart is torn between love and duty. If it's any comfort, Edmure's match with a Frey will save our alliance. Lord Walder will get his honor satisfied, Jon offers softly. Robb nods, jaw tight. "I'll do right by my people. But when this war is over, God's willing, the first thing I'll do is ride back to the crag and make Lady Jane my queen. Oaths be damned." He smiles sadly, a boy's dreamy hope in the eyes of a newly minted king. Jon clasps Robb's shoulder. You will, brother. We'll finish this war and you'll have your chance at happiness. You deserve it. Robb grips Jon's forearm gratefully. They step out into the cool night air together, unaware of the dark turn fate has in store just ahead. The Riverlands campaign continues. 300 AC, they arrive at the Twins, Walder Frey's twin castles guarding the Green Fork crossing. Lord Walder's Raven reply was surprisingly amicable. He accepted the offer for his daughter Rosalind to marry Edmure Tully, Catelyn's brother, as recompense for Robb breaking his promise to wed a Frey, and invited Robb's host to a grand wedding feast to seal the renewed alliance. He even promised to have fresh levies ready to march north under Robb's command after the wedding. Unbeknownst to the Starks, far to the south in King's Landing, Tywin Lannister has also received word from Lord Frey. The old lion allows himself a rare thin smile as he reads Frey's coded message confirming a certain special wedding arrangement. The lion and the trout have laid a trap for the wolf. Catelyn is cautiously optimistic. Edmure is resigned but dutiful. And Robb, though troubled at having broken his word by secretly marrying Jane Westerling in the Westerlands, is relieved that Lord Walder's rancor seems soothed by Edmure's substitute wedding. If all goes well, Robb will have the Frey forces and bridge to help him reclaim the north from the Ironborn invaders. The twins, at the wedding feast, music echoes off the stone walls of the Frey hall. Long trestle tables are laden with food stews, breads, many jugs of wine and ale. Lord Walder Frey, ancient and spidery, presides over the feast from a high seat. Dozens of Freys, sons, daughters, bastards, cousins, fill the hall, intermingled with the Stark and Tully loyalists. Though tensions underlie the gathering, on the surface the mood is one of revelry. Lord Walder has been a most gracious host, perhaps suspiciously gracious, Catelyn Stark thinks, noting the sly, toothless smile he wears. Robb sits in a place of honor near the dais, with his new queen Talisa. No, in this timeline he didn't meet Talisa. Disregard her, he is unmarried but secretly loves Jane. On Robb's left sits Catelyn. Jon Stark, as Robb's heir and valued commander, sits to Robb's right. Jon eats and drinks moderately, keen-eyed and wary. Ghost was deemed too disruptive to allow inside. The Freys insisted the direwolves be kennelled outside for the night, and that absence nags at Jon's instincts. Grey Wind, Robb's wolf, is chained in the stables at Walder Frey's insistence. Both Robb and Jon feel uneasy without their wolf's presence, but Walder clucked about safety and courtesy. Nevertheless, the feast goes on merrily. Edmure Tully and his young bride Rosalind Frey have been wed. Rosalind turned out to be lovely and gentle, to Edmure's immense relief. And now the bedding ceremony is concluded. Edmure, flushed with wine and good cheer, has been whisked away by drunken merrymakers to his marriage bed. When he left, the Blackfish Brynden slipped out as well, pointedly to relieve himself. Now Walder Frey claps his bony hands for attention. The hall quiets except for the musicians tuning up in the gallery above. My lords, my ladies, Lord Walder croaks, leaning forward. Before we close the night with a lovely bedding of, oh, wait, that's already done. Laughter, forced and hearty, ripples through the hall. Lord Walder smirks, then raises a toast. To Edmure and Rosalind, may they find as much happiness as my 8 marriages brought me. He cackles. The assembled dutifully laugh or chuckle. Catelyn shares a strained smile with Robb, who rolls his eyes good-naturedly at Walder's jape. The worst seems to have passed. Perhaps Catelyn dares to hope this alliance will hold after all. Robb turns to Jon beside him. We'll depart at first light tomorrow, he murmurs. Roose Bolton should be on his way north from Harrenhal by now. With Frey reinforcements, we can take back Moat Cailin in no time. Then, on to Winterfell to deal with the Ironborn. Jon nods. He's about to respond when the music changes. The band launches into a new tune, oddly somber for a wedding jingle. Catelyn's ears prick. Those notes, that melody, the Rains of Castamere, a Lannister song. Why in the world would they play that here? Catelyn's stomach drops. She looks to Roose Bolton's seat. Lord Bolton, who reappeared a short time ago and has been quietly nursing a cup of wine, is shrugging into a riding cloak, or is that concealed chainmail glinting under his festive doublet? Catelyn's heart lurches. She turns to alert Robb. But it's too late. A horrifying thrum, thrum, thrum splits the air. Crossbow strings. Thwip, thwip, thwip. The sickening sounds of quarrels striking flesh and armor from the galleries above. Men cry out in pain and shock. Even Great Jon Umber staggers back, riddled with bolts before collapsing. Men scream and topple over benches as more hidden crossbowmen poke from behind pillars and tapestries, raining murder. The music of Rains of Castamere plays on, cruelly loud over the slaughter. For a heartbeat, Robb Stark stands unscathed, thunderstruck by betrayal. Catelyn grabs Jingle Bell Frey, the half-witted grandson seated beside her, snatching a dagger from the table and pressing it to the boy's throat with a shaking hand. "Walder!" She shrieks toward the high seat, where Lord Walder watches the chaos with malevolent glee. "Stop this! Stop this, or I'll cut your wife's throat!" In her desperation, Catelyn seizes Lady Joyce Frey, a plump, frightened young wife of Walder, and holds the knife to the girl's throat. Walder Frey meets Catelyn's eyes, smiling a wolfish, toothless grin. "I'll find another," he cackles. On the hall floor, Roose Bolton suddenly appears beside Robb. The young king turns, confusion and rage contorting his face, a crossbow bolt jutting from his shoulder. Jaime Lannister sends his regards, Roose hisses, and drives a dagger up under Robb's ribs, straight into his heart. Robb Stark gasps, blood spurting from his mouth. He falls to his knees. "Mother?" he chokes out, reaching toward Catelyn with a trembling hand, and then collapses, lifeless, to the stone floor. Catelyn Stark's scream is a raw, soul-rending thing. She slashes the knife across the throat of Walder's wife out of pure anguish. The girl gurgles and falls dying, but Walder only laughs harder. Catelyn drops the knife, empty inside as blood pours down her hands. A Frey brute grabs her by the hair and cruelly draws a blade across her throat. Catelyn Stark's body falls to the floor beside her sons, red pooling around mother and child. Jon Stark is across the hall, near the center of one of the long tables when the mayhem erupts. He shoves the heavy table onto its side as makeshift cover. A crossbow quarrel thunks into the overturned wood an inch from his head. Ghost, who had been whining and scratching outside, suddenly bursts into the hall. The white direwolf must have savaged his kennel and overpowered any guards. Ghost charges at a Frey archer attempting to reload. The wolf's jaws clamp on the man's leg, snapping bone. Jon draws Longclaw and rises from behind the table in a fluid motion, just in time to parry the sword of a Frey guard lunging at him. Steel clashes. Jon pivots and riposts, Longclaw's Valyrian edge shearing through mail rings. The Frey gurgles and falls. Lifeblood dark on the floor rushes. The hall is pandemonium. Stark men and Frey men are engaged in brutal close-quarters fighting, or already lying in pools of blood. Many Stark bannermen were cut down in the first surprise volley. Even the formidable Greatjon Umber lies motionless, pierced by multiple bolts, a dozen Freys heaped upon him to make sure he stays down. Edmure Tully was dragged out earlier after being seized, his fate unknown, likely a prisoner. Crossbowmen continue to fire from the gallery, but fewer now as some scramble to reload, and others drop their bows to join the melee with daggers and swords. Jon pushes forward through the chaos, Ghost guarding his flank. A Frey knight swings a mace at Jon's head. Jon ducks and Ghost barrels into the man's legs from behind, knocking him flat. Jon drives Longclaw down, granting the Frey a swift end. Ghost's muzzle is red with blood. The direwolf whirls and tears out the throat of another assailant creeping at Jon's back. Across the hall, Walder Frey cackles. The king in the north is dead, as Robb's blood spreads across the floor. Frey men close in on the survivors. Brynden Blackfish, who had slipped out moments before the massacre to relieve himself, suddenly reappears at the hall's main doors, sword in hand. By the gods, he must have heard the screams and rallied some loyalists outside. Sir Brynden Tully, the Blackfish, storms into the fray with a roar, flanked by a swarm of Stark outriders and Tully guards who had remained outside the hall. Unarmored Frey servitors scatter as this unexpected relief force rushes in. Brynden had indeed fetched help. A few dozen Northmen and Rivermen who'd been tending the horses in the yard now pour in behind their Blackfish. For Riverrun, for the king in the north. The Blackfish bellows, slashing into a knot of Freys. The remaining Stark fighters rally at the sight. Chaos flips. Now Freys are the ones being slaughtered or throwing down their weapons in surrender as Blackfish's enraged troops flood the hall. Walder Frey's bulging eyes take in the reversal. The old man lets out a squawk of alarm and scuffles off his dais, disappearing behind a tapestry through a hidden door. Traitor Roose Bolton, seeing his co-conspirator flee and Stark reinforcements surging, curses under his breath. He fends off two angry northerners with swift parries, and then, with a swirl of his dark cloak, leaps out a narrow window and into the cold moat below, to escape. Jon, dizzy with pain from a crossbow bolt lodged in his side and a gash across his brow, stumbles toward where Robb and Catelyn lie. Ghost presses close to him. The Blackfish reaches Robb first. Brynden drops to his knees with a grief-stricken howl at the sight of his fallen nephew and niece by law. There's no time for mourning. Brynden's anguished gaze falls on Jon, staggering forward. The Blackfish rushes to Jon's side, catching him under the arm just as Jon's legs buckle. "Easy, lad," Brynden says, voice choked but gentle. "You're hurt bad." Jon grimaces, looking down at the fletching of a quarrel protruding from his left side. He sways on his feet. Robb, mother," he gasps, reaching out toward their still forms. Brynden's weathered face twists with sorrow and fury. I know, he says thickly, blinking away tears. "They'll be avenged. I swear it. But you're the Stark left now. We must get you to safety, Your Grace." Around them, the last Frey attackers are cut down or thrown aside. Some Frey men are dropping weapons and kneeling, pleading for mercy. The great hall of the twins is a butchery of betrayers and betrayed. Jon's vision tunnels. He feels strong arms lifting him. The Blackfish, with 2 northern bannermen helping, carries Jon toward the door. Ghost pads anxiously at Jon's heels, whining softly. Jon's consciousness ebbs, darkness encroaching at the edges. He does not hear the final volley of crossbow quarrels outside that finally silences Grey Wind's distant howls. "Live, Jon," the Blackfish urges as they bear him out of that accursed hall where so many died. "The North needs you now, Your Grace." Brynden calls Jon that without hesitation, for in the blink of an eye, the crown of the king in the North has passed to Ned Stark's next trueborn son. By Robb's own decree and the will of the Northern Lords, Jon Stark is now king in the North, if he survives this dreadful night. Jon barely hears Brynden's words as the cold night air hits his fevered face. The last thing Jon sees as consciousness slips away is the bonfire in the yard, Frey men tossing Stark corpses onto the flames amid the ruin of the feast. The young wolf is dead, the red wedding complete, and the North trembles on the brink of ruin.